We all wanted something more than just punk, more than prog rock, more than improvisation. And so noise is actually a very natural progression.
When we first started doing this, there weren't really that many groups that played what we played. I'm not sure that there are that many that play what we play now, but this whole idea of this noisy concept of music, especially one that eschews a normal rhythm or melody or most musical reference points.
The darkness and the anger, you know, was just the music is what helped me through that. I mean, that's why I think I was drawn to such darkness and such aggression. I think it was exercising these feelings that I didn't do anything with. They were just there. I just crammed them down, and now I was just, you know, I had this you know, dark energy that you know, needed to come out, and I think it came out in the early music.
You know, it was kind of a cool thing to like want to play a guitar. And I was playing in a punk rock band at the time, and we had all of our instruments around and at my house. And I noticed if I could lean a bass guitar across a bass amp or a guitar amp, that it would make the most insane sound. At the same time, I loved throbbing gristle. I hadn't consciously thought of like, well, I want to make noise. But I noticed if I leaned a guitar across the amp, it made a howling, crazy sound. And it was music to me.
I saw Fred Frith, was in like '79. He played at the Andor Gallery, I think, here in Seattle. Just tabletop guitar, prepared guitar, and blah, 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 you know, blip blop, you know, blah blah blah, with all this. And I was in that. Ooh, that's what I want to do. So I just went downtown and bought an electric 12-string guitar that's sitting there, and that's what been my main instrument. And I have open tunings, and I just weave things in and out and play with mallets and prepare. It's all prepared guitar. I'm very much a purist. I do not run it through any boxes. It's all physics. It's all physics of the strings that comes out.
Got into music, I think I popped out that way. Just popped into existence, completely obsessed with music, and happened to land in a household filled with Beatles records, and and that was it. I'm told that I was proclaiming myself to be John Lennon before I could even speak. I mean, I was forever putting bands together in the neighborhood. And I was on TV when I was like 11 with a band called Special Delivery, and we played with the Captain and Tennille. First band that ever got attention or mentioned or anywhere was Dead of Nature.
More about this historic jump and the man himself. I'd like to introduce to you. Everyone, meet Evil Knievel.
It was my preteen, teenage noise punk band / industrial, fun industrial band. The energy of punk rock and all our battered toy synthesizers instead of guitars, generally.
When I lived in Princeton, New Jersey, growing up, my dad used to drive us down Prospect Avenue, where the Princeton University eating clubs are. And I remember driving on that street many times, and he'd play the AM radio, and I'd hear music by the Byrds and the Beatles and the Mamas and the Papas, California Dreamin' and Mr. Tambourine Man and Sloop John B. And it was all magical. All this great pop music from the 60s was really magical. And what really ruined my life was in 1969, I bought a copy of the authorized biography of the Beatles by Hunter Davies. And it intrigued me how the Beatles came up. They came out of nothing, working class, bought guitars, and played in clubs and became a monster hit monstrosity.
Certainly in the live context, it has more to do with performance art. And otherwise, I think of it as noise. I guess noise would be the hybrid between the music and the performance art and the philosophy and everything else all thrown into a bucket.
The first time that music really affected me deeply was it was 1967. It was my brother-in-law. He was an audiophile, but he just got the reel-to-reel to Sgt. Pepper's. I listened to Sgt. Pepper's like all the way through on a reel-to-reel tape, and it just blew my mind. Every time I went over there, I'd want to listen to that thing. I would sit in that chair, and he'd run it over and over and over again. I wouldn't leave the chair while we were we were at their house. At that same time, I was taking organ lessons, which I took for a number of years. Ended up playing organ in church for Good Friday when I was 14 years old.
Well, we actually met when we were 5. We were in the same kindergarten class together. And if you're familiar with our duo record, Bells Together, our kindergarten class picture was the cover art. So we sort of lost touch. Then I think we got hooked back up during summer school. We found ourselves in band together. Most of that band time I spent in exile because I got kicked out of band pretty much every year from 7th grade through 12th for playing what we kind of do now in Borbetomagus. As early as age 14, we were already experimenting with the bells together technique. Put the bells of the horns together to see what it would sound like, and it really did sound pretty interesting.
Well, my musical influences was really this guy that I grew up with, and I was in middle school and he was in high school, and he was really into weird music, and so he's kind of turned me on to like Soft Machine and Robert Wyatt and Faust and Tangerine Dream and Roxy Music, Brian Eno and Gentle Giant, Peter Hamill, and Vandergraaf Jenner, and like these are the people I listened to in the 70s, so that's when my music thing really began.
What if I, took this tape recorder and like put it on a string and put it down in the pump house, because we had a well. We lived in a rural Michigan. It was like we had a pump house. Our water came from a well, and the pump house made this crazy sound, and you could hear it. It was like this cycle, and it's on it's on the Screw Machine tapes. I started Screw Machine because I was doing that, and I was working at a place. It was a Screw Machine factory. Drive into the parking lot, and all you could hear was like, shh. That's all you could hear. And you got in there, you put the earplugs in, and you went to work for 8 hours, 12 hours.
To be perfectly honest, I would have to say in the early days, it was definitely professional wrestling. And I mean like really old school professional wrestling. We're talking about Gene Kiniski, Bulldog Brown, Gorgeous George, because these were the pioneers. These were the people who really made professional wrestling, transformed professional wrestling from a sport to a form of theater. They took the cliches of machoism and just exaggerated them beyond all recognition. More importantly, the early professional wrestlers like Gorgeous George were able to transcend the boundaries of what constituted the stage area. They went beyond the ring to the audience. They made the audience the majority of the performance. The real wrestling match didn't happen inside the ring, it happened outside. It happened with how they enticed the audience, how they incorporated the audience and the audience's reaction. And I always wanted, especially in the early days, I wanted my performances to entice and encourage and incorporate the audience. More so than whatever was actually on the stage. I found what was happening in the audience to be the real performance a lot of the time.
time we'd play out, we'd play out with a different name. We'd just make up a name for the group for the gig. With a 3-humped lowercase m with an umlaut for a couple of weeks. And all leading up to the release of our first album. And I came up with the concept for the cover, which was each of us holding little boxes which were filled with earthworms. That was the cover. Name Borbetomagus, which is the